Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here. Welcome back to another Cardano video. Today I'm joined by Ken from Meld to talk all about what's the latest on Meld. It's probably well over a year since we sat down to have a chat. A lot of things have changed since then. So we'll go through what's the latest on Meld, how things are going over there, and the future for Meld and Cardano. Ken, thanks for taking the time to come on.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. It's always good to be here.
Yeah, look, let's jump straight into it. For anybody who hasn't heard of Meld, what it is, what is Meld, or what are you trying to build?
So Meld is a blockchain-centered global banking solution. So our focus is to be able to get people the ability to take all of their assets and keep them on chain, and then be able to use them wherever and whenever they want, whether they want to put it into a DEX or they want to generate some yield from it by staking Meld or staking ADA, or being able to do a Swift transaction, wiring money, paying rent, using your debit card. All of your assets sit on chain, and then you can use them in whatever way you want to use them. You know that they're under your control, they're in your keys, and you can cross this bridge between traditional finance and crypto. Our starting point, where we came from, was this idea of lending and borrowing, where you could take your assets in crypto, you can lock them up into a smart contract, and you can borrow fiat against them. So that was how we began our journey. And we expected we were going to be able to work with traditional financial institutions. That turned out not to be the case. They didn't want to touch anything DeFi. So then we started the process of looking for a banking license. We're still in that process right now. We're getting closer and closer. We've had a few setbacks, but we're still on the way. We do have the ability, to take crypto to fiat and fiat to crypto, to go back and forth between those within the user's existing bank account. But we're well on the way of being able to connect these two worlds together. And this idea of having your own bank on the blockchain is kind of the big idea that has come out of this initial vision of lending and borrowing.
Okay, yeah, I think when we talked last, it was probably just really lending and borrowing was the core focus, and fiat-backed crypto loans is something that really piqued my interest, to be able to use the crypto that I have and back a fiat loan. That's all still part of the plan, is it?
That's all still part of the plan. It's evolved a bit since we talked last time. We've added some functionality like this idea of a yield boost. So in a traditional lending and borrowing, you supply your asset and then other people can borrow it. Depending on the number of people that borrow it, that's going to determine the amount of yield you're going to get when you supply it, right? Because they're paying interest for the loan, and then you get a yield. We've kind of modified this idea a bit, and so if I use ADA as an example, if you supply ADA to a lending and borrowing pool and people borrow it, a small number borrow it, you're not going to get very much yield on it, right? You're going to get maybe 0.3, 0.4%. if like 10 or 20% of the pool is used. But what we've done is we've said, okay, that is the case, but the assets that are not being borrowed, they're getting put into stake pools, generating 3.5%. And so the yield floor on your supply is not 0.3, but it's 3%. And so this boost in yield is one of the key characteristics that's sort of come about as we've evolved the idea and as we've evolved what it means to create a lending and borrowing protocol that is efficient.
Okay. And you mentioned there about, for the fiat side, you can have that from user to user, but the license you guys are going after, is that to make ye a bank, as in the traditional terms, to get the licenses for that? Or what is the license that you're going after?
No. So the license is an electronic money license, and it's effectively the ability for us to hold customers' money. The money is actually held in the central bank. So we don't take physical control of the money. We're able to move the money around. We're able to facilitate the user from transacting it from one place to another, from converting it from one currency to another, or attaching it to a debit card. So it's a kind of a very light banking license. A traditional banking license means when a customer deposits money, then that bank can use that money for whatever they want to use it for. In our case, that's not the case. We can't use the money for anything at all. We can't touch it. So we're not in the situation where we have, there even is a legal framework for us to do anything like what FTX did.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. I suppose that goes against what you guys are looking for, having as much of this process decentralized as possible. And on that side is things like, I think the debit card, that probably wasn't a part of it when we initially spoke, but the debit card, would that be based on the license, or can you go that route without the license?
So we recently had a setback where we had a partner and they pulled out at the last minute. We've kind of changed our approach going forward. Rather than trying to focus on a single partner, we're working with many partners, covering many different parts of the process so that we can get it to move faster. So we can get cards from one, we can get access to, Mexican pesos from another, euros from another, Hong Kong dollars and Singapore dollars from another. So we're looking at almost like decentralizing the fiat side by having multiple channels feeding into the blockchain, and then you can use it as necessary. And so cards are one part of that. But yes, when we talked last time, I don't think cards were really a part of the narrative.
Yeah, and just on that, so that would be that I could use my crypto so I load the card up with crypto and then I can pay at the merchant. So is that still held in my wallet, or is that held in a central entity then, the crypto that I put onto it?
So everything is on chain now. So we originally, before we had this setback, we originally had this idea that you would keep a lot of your money in fiat and then you can go back to, crypto if you wanted to. We've changed that idea around and we've said, no, we don't like this idea because it kind of put a bad taste in our mouth. We went down this road with this to get this license, and the partner that we had, they walked away in the very last minute. So we said, you know what? We want to keep everything on chain. We want everything under the control of the user. We don't want to get into a situation where, had we gone with this partner and they had sort of backed out 6 months after we had launched, then it would have been a problem. So we kind of learned our lesson, got our fingers burned, and we've said, nope, everything goes on chain. The user maintains keys. The user maintains control all the time. When it comes to to debit cards, at this point, the plan is not to attach crypto to it. At this point, the plan is to attach fiat currency to it. We don't believe in this idea of spending crypto. Spending stable coins, that's fine. But most people that are going to be in this situation are going to want to keep their crypto and they're going to want to use it or see it go up and up and up over time. So if you want to sort of get access to the debit card, it stays in crypto or stays in stable coins on the blockchain. And then when you use it, it gets converted into fiat on the transaction. So it only goes into fiat when a transaction happens, when the SWIFT transaction happens, when the wire transfer happens, when the debit card transaction happens. Otherwise, it stays in crypto. You're able to get your yield. You're able to do stuff with it there.
Yeah, that's my preference anyway. And I know when I started using cards first, I think WireX was one of the first ones, but I always had to convert the crypto into fiat when I was loading the card. But then the likes of Binance or crypto.com, I could just hold the crypto and then it's converted at the point of sale, which I think is good. And just on the partner that pulled out, I know it was mentioned about the ISPO was a potential issue, something they referenced there. Do you see the ISPO as an issue having done that, or how does your legal side look at that?
No, I mean, the ISPO, everything was legal about the ISPO. The challenge was that the people that were making the decision, they didn't understand what staking was. So these were non-crypto people. They knew absolutely zero about crypto. So they had a difficult time understanding how a person could stake to a blockchain without going through KYC. So the issue they had wasn't with the ISPO, it was with proof of stake blockchains and staking on a proof of stake blockchain.
Okay. Yeah, it's probably something we're seeing more and more. I think you guys were the first ones to run an ISPO on
Yeah.
Cardano. But we're seeing a lot of them now. There's a lot of projects running them. So I'm sure lots will be interested in that, in the response from traditional finance towards that. And if there are issues in it, and some try and block out certain countries and they try and do KYC, and others don't. It's just completely open.
Are there some ISPOs that are doing KYC?
It was, the one that comes to mind is Axo Trade. So Axo initially done an open ISPO, but after talking to the institutional side and legal side, what they done was sent back all of the rewards they got from it, sent them back to all the users. But people who KYC and are in, there's the general countries that can't, I think the US and a few others,
Gotcha.
I'm sure you know the list off by heart at this stage, they won't be able to claim them. But anyone in the likes of myself in Ireland, I could claim them if I KYC, so I can still get the rewards I would have earned. But I also got back the ADA that they initially took, just because of the ISPO risk of going into the traditional world.
Yeah.
So it's what lots of it is down to education as well, I suppose, on the educating the outside on how things work here. But you don't see it as an issue with any of the other license provider, I suppose, companies that you'd be looking to get the license through?
No, I mean, we're talking with, I think, 5 companies now. All of these companies are familiar with how crypto works, and it's not an issue at all. We haven't run into the issue anywhere except for this one particular set of circumstances. We just got our books audited in Singapore, and we had no problems with this. We got everything. We had a legal team sort of going through the ISPO before we did it. It falls within the legal framework of Singapore where we ran it. So we had no issues on that, both before the ISPO and then after the ISPO. We had the legal team also sort of go through the process and kind of confirm that it was all done sort of legally and within the sort of scope of the way it should be done. I mean, come on, if you're saying that proof of stake is not legal without KYC, then you're pointing a big finger at Ethereum and, you know, Solana and Polygon and Avalanche and Cardano and, you know, all of the blockchains out there. So, I mean, there's a lot of legal precedents to say that proof of stake is fine. There's no problem with it. It's just considered to be revenue. So I wouldn't, I mean, not financial advice, obviously, not legal advice either, but still, I mean, it's just, in our case, it was just a matter of the people that were making the decisions. They didn't understand crypto at all. They had no background and they weren't really keen to try and understand it.
Okay. So we're going to get into Cardano now in a minute, but just to finish out on the current kind of status of what you guys are at, you now have your own layer 1. And that's an Avalanche subnet, as far as I know, is it? Yeah.
So it's using the Avalanche subnet architecture. So it's effectively an EVM blockchain, a layer 1 blockchain. We have bridging now. It's going to come out by the end of September for people to be able to bridge between other EVM chains and Cardano and the Meld blockchain. So we're trying to make it as fluid as possible to sort of flow between all these different chains. And we're sort of working towards having this kind of looking at chains as liquidity pools and the ability to kind of move assets as you see fit based on what you're trying to do.
Okay, interesting. And just on the bridging then, is there, lots of people do it in different ways, but is there a centralized element of the bridge that holds custody of the funds? I know some use cold storage, some use purely smart contracts, but what kind of way will you do it?
So we do it a little bit differently. We do it similar to the way the USDC does it. So we supply, at least for the time being, we supply liquidity pools on both sides of the bridge. So we supply it on the Cardano side and on, for example, the Ethereum side. So when a user wants to bridge, they take their ADA or they take their Meld. Let's use ADA as an example. They take their ADA and they put it into this pool. And then on the Ethereum side, they get the wrapped ADA on the Ethereum as an ERC20 token. So there's no minting and burning or locking or any of this kind of stuff. When the pools start to go out of balance, like if a lot of people move from Cardano to Ethereum or vice versa, then we will periodically go in and rebalance them. So we have a Cardano multi-sig wallet that we're able to then take in a centralized way via the DAO. We're able to burn a lot of the Ethereum tokens and mint a lot of the tokens on the Cardano side. So we do this as part of a kind of overall architecture for the Meld token, where you're able to see all of the tokens on all of the blockchains, and we're able to maintain exactly 4 billion tokens, which is our fixed supply of the Meld token. In the case of Ethereum or ADA or stuff like this, if you bring your ADA into the pool, then an ADA is created by Chainport, which is our blockchain provider or our bridge provider. They'll create the asset ETH on ADA on the Ethereum side, and then when it gets brought back, then it will be released on the pool side.
Okay, yeah, Chainport. I like Chainport. I know they use cold storage as part of it. They don't keep all on chain. They have some off. I don't know the full ins and outs of it, but it's they do things a bit different than some of the other ones that we have seen being hacked over the last while. It's always, unfortunately, always a risk.
Yeah, they're more security focused than decentralized focused.
Yeah. Okay, so is there timelines on launches on Meld yet? I know things are always moving.
So right now, next week, we will be launching Wallet Connect in the Meld app. So that will allow you to use the Meld app and connect to Wing Riders, which we've tested, other dApps on Cardano, as well as Uniswap and Trader Joe and OpenSea and all these different types of dApps all over the ecosystem. So that's the closest. Then by the end of September, we will have bridging integrated into the Meld app as well natively. You can bridge now, but you have to go to Chainport. And then I'm going to make sure I get these dates right. So we have then Meld native staking and gasless transactions on the Meld blockchain. Those will be sent for audit on August 1st. On October 1st. So we'll go into testnet in September. When they come out of audit, then they'll go live. And then we will have lending and borrowing live in testnet before the end of the year.
Okay, and that's on the Meld layer 1 that you have all that?
Yeah, but because we're using bridging, you have the ability to bridge over your ADA. You don't have to sell it or burn it or anything like that. You can bridge over ADA or Husky or Charlie 3 or Sunday Swap or Wing Riders or any of these CNTs. You're able to bridge them over to the Meld blockchain and use them there, and then bridge them back or into the EVM network.
Okay, and then I suppose that leads us on to the big question that lots on the Cardano side have is what's going to happen with Cardano for Meld? What will anything still be launching on Cardano?
So yeah, so we are building on Cardano. We're working currently on a multi-sig wallet. We're also continuing to do all this integration when it comes to bridging and supporting CNTs and this kind of stuff, Wallet Connect, etc. Right now, the lending and borrowing on Cardano, it went through testnet, and we ran into some risks that we needed to seriously look at. So we put it on hold, and we've been talking with IOG in regards to this. They're working on some of these issues, and once it gets resolved, then we'll have an opportunity to pick that back up and launch again. I know people in the community keep on saying that we're leaving Cardano or we've left Cardano. We haven't left Cardano. We're still on Cardano. We still work with Cardano. We still have a Haskell team working on Cardano. You can go into our dev diaries, which we publish once a week, and you'll see the work that we're doing. but we've had to put this on hold because of it's just too high risk for us at this point in time. But we will pick it back up and we will launch it once the issues have been addressed. And we feel confident that we can do this in a way that's not going to risk, or it's not going to put too much risk on our users' funds.
Okay, it was, yeah, until we had this call, we had a quick chat before we were recording here, and I wasn't sure if you were going to put anything out on Cardano either, just from everything I've seen. I wasn't fully sure, but it is good to hear that you are still going to launch. I had seen the testnet was up before, so lending and borrowing was working there. And so the plan long term, we talked a bit about concerns you have on Cardano and potential risks for users, and I can see it. You don't want to launch with that potential risk there. So when a solution is found for that, you will launch lending and borrowing natively on Cardano, will you?
Yes, we will be launching lending and borrowing natively on Cardano. Yes, I mean we have our NFTs on Cardano. We have the diamond hands and we have bank managers on Cardano. We're not leaving Cardano. It's just the set of circumstances that we're currently in. We have to put it on pause and focus on what we can deliver in the short term, which is lending and borrowing on our own blockchain. But our lending and borrowing on our blockchain is going to support all of these Cardano tokens. So I'm sure some people don't want to sort of port it over, and I can appreciate that entirely. But that's the way that we can work safely as of right now. And then as time moves on, we'll look at the situation and we'll make adjustments as we're able to. But we will eventually launch on Cardano once we feel that these risks have been mitigated.
Okay, and on that then, will you look at any other chains to do lending and borrowing natively, or would it just be Meld or your own layer 1 and Cardano?
Right now, it's only going to be on ours and Cardano. We're not looking at any other chains. What we are looking at is this idea of, if you're going to hold all of your assets, the possibility of, let's say you have our mobile app comes out and you've got got your bank account, you've got your debit card, you've got all this kind of stuff. You get your salary, for example, right? You get your salary into the bank account. We're looking at the ability for you to choose which blockchain you want to keep all of your money on, right? If we're going to be a blockchain-based bank, then we want to make it possible for users to be able to choose which blockchain they keep all of their assets on. So we will definitely be supporting, obviously, the Meld blockchain. We're going to be trying to support the Cardano blockchain, depending on how difficult this is. We don't know what it is. We have to look into it, but that's the plan right now. So then you'll be able to actively say, I want to keep all of my assets on Cardano, or I want to keep all my assets on Meld, or I want to keep all my assets on Ethereum. So we haven't left the ecosystem. We just have, we've had this setback that we have to put things on pause.
Okay, yeah, I think most people coming in new to crypto, they probably won't care what chain their crypto is held on initially anyway, until they're educated on the differences within cryptocurrency. It's all about the onboarding process and how easy you make the UI and UX for the person coming in, and then education can come after that. But if you can bring them in first, then initially they probably don't really care where it is, but it will be good to give them options down the line. So I suppose, anything else for Meld going forward then, outside of what we've discussed, or what's your big targets?
No, I mean, part of the reason for coming on is to sort of talk about this issue of, people saying that we're leaving Cardano. We've tried to answer the questions as best we could. We're trying to share as much as we possibly can. We talked about this before the call. So we haven't left. But we're in a bit of a sticky situation and we're trying to make the best out of it. And we will continue to develop and we will continue to support. We have regular relationships with lots of the Cardano protocols, and we still work with them. So we're here, we're going to keep on working, and we're going to keep on doing this. And we have a lot of stuff that's coming out in the next 3 months. So it's going to be very, very exciting and really interesting what's going to happen and what type of products we're going to be able to roll out.
Great. Look, I think we've covered lots where you are now, and the biggest question for us was people coming here anyway was on Cardano, or people coming from the Cardano side. So we might cut it off there and keep it fairly short for today on that update. And let's catch up in another few months as things are rolling out for yourselves, and maybe an update on the Cardano side just to see how things are going there.
Sounds like a plan.
So, Ken, thanks again for your time. I do appreciate it. Everyone watching, hopefully you got the information you were coming for and share it out. Let others know what's going on with Meld on their own layer 1 and the latest on Cardano. Subscribe if you're new. Leave questions below. I will pull them together maybe for the next call, or put them into Ken and the team over there. I'll leave links to their socials below as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers, Ken.
Thanks, Paul. Cheers.